Hello, my friends, and welcome. Welcome to our April Poetry Celebration. This is week 5 and our last video together, though I do hope that we'll all continue to write poems far beyond today. I'm so glad you're here with me. My name is Kate Chadbourne, and I'm a poet and writer and the founder of the Bardic Academy. And I am hosting this celebration in conjunction with the journal makers, Jumping Fox Design. That's their lovely logo that I love so much, Jumping Fox Design, who have very generously agreed to give us some prizes, which I am going to draw out of a hat today, the names of our winners. So we have a lot in store today. We've some wonderful poems from you, another wonderful treasure trove of poetry. This week we have our interview with Jumping Fox Design, we have our drawing, and we have a little poem from me. So all kinds of good things. So I'm glad you're here, and let's jump right in. So I want to read a couple of poems. We'll come to, last week we did translation. And just to start us off, a few poems before translation. One from the wonderful Rosie. I think Rosie is 4 years old. This poem I love. It's called Pony Love by Rosie. The grass brings the deer, that brings the butterfly, that brings the mouse, that brings the cheese, that brings the alligator, that brings the mouth to eat the cheese, that brings the ribbon that goes around the joy of nature. Yes, I love that so much. The alligator that brings the mouth to eat the cheese. That's just so wonderful. And the ribbon that goes around the joy of nature. Thank you, Rosie. That gave me so much pleasure this week. My friend Mike was still thinking about the gift of food, and he wrote this poem called Calzone, which I found delightful. I had 2 music friends over to play music. It was the first time since the pandemic started. We are all fully vaccinated. We didn't have lunch so we could focus on music. But my wife baked chocolate chip cookies, Karen baked olive bread, Chris brought homemade pepper steak calzone. My wife and I ate the calzone later. It was so good, my wife even ate the red peppers. That's marvelous. Thank you, Mike. I love that. Now, last week we talked about translation, and I must say you all outdid yourselves. Thank you. Just again, thank you everybody who's been sending me poems, whether you've sent them 1 week or 4 weeks, and whether you've sent 1 poem a week or 7 a week. Thank you. I have felt so blessed to be reading your poems. It's really brought so much joy to this month. So to dive in, do you know this song? I'll tell me ma when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. They pulled my hair and stole my comb, but that's all right till I go home. She is handsome, she is pretty, she is the belle of Belfast City. She is courting 1, 2, 3, please won't you tell me who is she? I bet you've heard that song. It's a Belfast street song. It's called I Tell Me Ma. And my friend Colleen made this new translation of it called The Belle of Belfast City Wise. I'll tell ye, boy, you better go home. This here young maiden has her own cell phone. You pulled my hair, you stole my comb. That's not okay with me. I'm a beauty, for I am wise. I got STEM and AP ties. University first, and then I'll see if I want to court and marry thee. I love that. A recasting in which the belle of Belfast City is not a boy-crazy girl, but somebody with plans. Well done, Colleen. So much fun. Now, some of you responded to, I was suggesting that there's so many beautiful things that could be translated in the Bible. And my friend Kathleen, who has a brand new grandson, congratulations, Kathleen, and all your family, loves this verse, which is from 1 Corinthians 13:12. And it's just a short little verse. I'll read it first. For now We see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. And this is what Kathleen wrote in her translation. She says, into beyond and yesterday. Here I am an infant looking out toward you, later adult to adult. Here I am crawling about, understanding bit by bit, later grown, fully understanding, while you, in your infinite wisdom of love, always understood me. What a beautiful thing to dedicate to a brand new grandson. May he flourish. My friend Bill was inspired by "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." I know you know that one, so I'm just going to dive right into Bill's beautiful translation. My Lord, no one but you knows the deepest desires of my heart. My heart can find rest everywhere, knowing you lead my way. You lead me among the righteous so I may have peace. My enemy, death, does not even fill me. My enemy, death, does not even fill me with dread. Almighty in power, you provide everything I need. Because of your mercy, I will rest forever in your protective arms. Many of you, my friend Ruthie, who's a Shanachie and poet, wrote a beautiful translation of biblical verse. My friend Trish Knudsen wrote beautiful, meaningful translation. Many of you have entered these verses, which you've probably been hearing lots of your lives, and recast them in ways that are even more personal to you. That's beautiful. Thank you. My friend Betsy wrote a wonderful translation. I'm going to read to you again just to set up her translation. You might remember, so this is the Frank O'Connor book we looked at last week, and this is the little poem I read to you called The Blackbird by Belfast Lough. What little throat has framed that note? What gold beak shot it far away? A blackbird on his leafy throne tossed it alone across the bay. Now, Betsy entered this poem in a different way. She actually learned a little bit about early Irish metrics, meaning the rhythm and the way that poetry is constructed. And she also brought to it our sort of, our theme has been connection. But I would say that one of our sub-themes has been trees. And so she noticed not just the blackbird, but, well, you'll hear. And she calls this siblings. Two old souls o'er the loch, one shall sing, one shall grow. Symphony, harmony, sister bird, brother tree. I just love that so much. I love, again, talk about connection, right? So, an early Irish poet, possibly in a monastery, penned that little bit of verse. Frank O'Connor translated it. We also heard another translation. And now Betsy has reimagined it. She's gone through the door of it and brought something new to us. It's beautiful. Now, my friend Sharon was moved by a poem called Peaches, 6 in a Tin Bowl, Sarajevo, a poem by Sandra Cisneros. And you might know Sandra because she wrote the amazing book called The House on Mango Street. I wouldn't ordinarily do this, but I want to read each little bit of her translation in conjunction with Sandra's poem, because then you will really understand, you'll really hear how Sharon mapped her poem on to Sandra's in, I think, such a beautiful way. So I'll read Sandra and then Sharon, and going back and forth. So Sandra's poem is called Peaches, 6 in a Tin Bowl, Sarajevo. And Sharon's poem is called Hearts, 6 in a Circle. Here's Sandra. If peaches had arms, surely they would hold one another in their peach sleep. Sharon. If hearts could speak, surely they would sound like love. Sandra. And if peaches had feet, it is sure they would nudge one another with their soft, peachy feet. Sharon. And if hearts could hear, it is sure they would listen to one another with attentiveness and love. Sandra. And if peaches could, they would sleep with their dimpled head on the others, each to each. Sharon. And if hearts could touch, they would hug one another with their pulsing muscles, sending waves of love with every beat. Sandra. Like you and me, and sleep and sleep. Sharon. Like you and me, and love and love. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Marlena translated a poem by Rainer Maria Rilke. Now, I am not going to read the original of this. It's called Aus einem April, which translates to from an April. But even without really being able to properly read the source language, I really loved Marlena's translation. And I think it's perfect for us here as we've just entered the queendom of May. This is Marlena's poem, From an April. The scent of the forest has returned. The larks flutter and float, lifting with them the sky that has been so heavy on our shoulders. We used to see the day through the branches, how empty it was. But after long, rainy afternoons, now come the golden, sun-drenched, newer hours, and from them flee, on the fronts of distant houses, the windows eerily rattled by wings. And then it is still. Even the rain falls more quietly, polishing and darkening the stones, and all the noises go to rest in shining buds on young twigs. In shining buds on young twigs. That's beautiful. So thank you, everybody. There was just, like I said, everyone who jumped in on translation. It's inspired and it's wonderful work, and I appreciate it. A few spring poems. My friend Jody, who's a wonderful harper and musician, wrote 3 haikus that I just think speak to us right now. Dazzling star-streaked sky, the Milky Way overhead, bright constellations. Woken up by birds chirping, squawking, trilling song louder and louder. Wind blowing through trees, tossing nature upside down. No, never stopping. Never stopping. Now, picking up on that wind, here is a beautiful poem by my friend Deb Goss, a marvelous singer, and her poem is called Behind the Window. I pull down the sash, winter or summer, the top one with no screen, and brave the possibility that a bird will want to visit my living room, or that my glasses will decide to pop off from my face. I lean my head out and say, "Hello, world," and I breathe the air fully, polluted or not. I am screened, though, from the streets by the trees, by the bushes, and usually my face is bathed by the breeze. Life touches us, and we reach out to touch life, and I love that poem. Just one more poem from our community. Again, I could read all day. You have sent so many beautiful poems. This is a poem by Tricia McGonigal that she actually sent a little while ago, but I thought it really spoke to us today. You know, we've been working with this theme of connection, but we've also been connecting with one another in, I think, such a beautiful way. You've been supportive to one another, supportive to me, for which I thank you. And we've been in touch with poetry and also with the broader community of poets by the way we've been celebrating here. And this poem just felt like that. It's called English Lit 102. I thought about the young woman from my Thursday night class. She always participated, Such interesting insights, but in a voice I had to be near to catch. I would repeat her ideas so others could learn from her. That night of the final exam, everyone else had left after many hugs and handshakes. We had all become comfortable with one another. Some had become friends. The table with the cake, the bowl of mandarin oranges, the box of cookies was nearly empty. But she wrote on. At around 10 o'clock, she brought me her exam. We talked as we both filled our bags with books, notebooks, pens, logged out of the computers. I suggested she might take the leftovers. This brightened her smile. Then she asked, "Can I give you a hug?" "Of course," as I walked toward her, and hug she did, tight, for many minutes, reluctant to let go. This was my final exam. I think I passed. And that's us, my friends, connecting, sharing what's important, listening to each other, amplifying each other, noticing the beauty in each other, being moved by that. All of it, connection. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, I asked you to send me some questions for our friends Grace and Zsuzsanna, who are the ones who founded Jumping Fox Design, and I'm a fan, as I've told you all along. I just keep filling up these journals. This one keeps filling up. So I wanted just to share very briefly with you some of the questions. The first one, of course, is about the name. One of you wrote, "I love the name. How did you decide on it?" And they write, the brand is a brainchild of Zsuzsanna's. So the idea, the name, and the lovely fox icon was created by Isabel, our talented graphic designer. Our product philosophy is rooted in the very attributes of the iconic jumping fox: smart, elegant, and approachable. I love that, and I would agree with that, actually, that, again, these journals, you could just tuck them in and bring them anywhere. They are approachable in that and elegant. Okay, so second question. What are we supposed to do with the dots in some of the journals? What opportunity does this afford that lines doesn't? That's such a great question. Thank you, Anne, for that. And Grace writes back, she says, "Dot grid paper gives you more freedom than lined paper because the dots are not as obtrusive." I agree. So you can be more creative for planning, like drawing calendars, putting in trackers. For bullet journaling, you can draw on them. I always opt myself for a dot journal because I am not a big fan of writing in the lines. I know many people are, but I like the dots because I like to sometimes put in a little grid or just write something this way rather than this way. It's fun to do that. So the dots kind of give you some freedom. One of you asked, what kinds of things do you like to write in your journal? Zsuzsanna is a very visual person. She loves dotted journals for designing and sketching, and Grace normally uses line journals for note-taking and to write to-dos. So you can use your journal for keeping a journal or for writing poems, but it's interesting that Zsuzsanna uses hers for designing and sketching. I love that. And why do you think journals are important? And they write, journaling has so many benefits: clearing your head, boosting creativity, evoking mindfulness, reducing stress and anxiety, just to name a few. And I will say that has been I've been a lifelong journaler since I was quite young, maybe 7 or 8, I've been keeping a journal. And just to hear your own thinking is so helpful, and to have a place to put things, to put ideas, to put fears, to put inspirations, invaluable. I need to hear what's in my head sometimes in order to get it clear. And once I do, sometimes I can really celebrate on the page. And I also just wanted to add that one of our poets had written this, and I just really liked. She said, "Tell them that I have kept a journal since the day that our son Ben became legally ours in 1971. I have many, many journals in my closet, but I love the Jumping Fox design. Writing in a journal helped me to become a writer." So lots to be said for keeping a journal. I want to just share with you one more of my poems, just very briefly. And I hope from this one that you'll have a spark. So my poem is called Pine, and I wrote it actually in the middle of the lake. I like to kayak around my lake, and I went out and sat on an island and had a cup of tea. Thermos and a journal, best thing together. And I just wrote this poem, which is a kind of love poem. Pine, my friend, yours is the green I keep on a sunny hill in my heart. Your needles buttered and blued, your bark a cuneiform tongue spoken by years and rain. Your word is stalwart and social too, opening space for another to stand up in. You teach me the upright reach of dignity and the feathery touch of come closer. To inhale near you is medicine. To lean against your length, a gift. You offered safe company to the girl I was long ago. Today it is strength you extend in your wise and pliable arms that accept wind or squirrel, sun or snow, or whatever comes, and turn it all to the good. Guide of my growing, you are a tree I treasure and trust. You are a tree I treasure and trust. Now, wouldn't it be fun to write a love poem for every different kind of tree that you see growing around you? You might try that, but that's my spark for you, just to give you something else to play with, is write, some would call that an ode. You can write an ode to anything, which is a praise poem. I would say my poem is more of a love poem, but however you frame it, noticing what is in your environment and writing a poem of praise or love to it, it just feels wonderful. And I think it's at the heart of poetry to notice, isn't it? And to notice with appreciation is a special blessing. So I hope you'll maybe take that up. Well, before we have our drawing, my friends, I just want to take a minute and thank a lot of you, a lot of people. First, I want to thank Jumping Fox Design for the impetus to have a second year of this celebration. I love working with Grace and Zsuzsanna. I'm so happy that we're in touch. I'm so impressed with their work, and I'm so very grateful to them for the prizes that they're sharing with us and for my own journal, which is precious to me. So thank you, Grace and Zsuzsanna and everyone at Jumping Fox Design, for what you do to help us create and be in touch with ourselves and each other. I also want to thank the Academy of American Poets. Again, this is the poster that we've been keeping company with all throughout April and now into May. And I'm just so grateful for the work they do in keeping poetry well and flourishing and alive, and also keeping the community of poets in touch. Again, partly just through the symbol of this poem, we've been in touch with thousands of poets all through this month, and that I think is so beautiful. I also want to thank Joy Harjo, who is our Poet Laureate, our United States Poet Laureate. I think she's amazing. I think she's, oh my heart, she's a wonderful, wonderful poet, and she's doing wonderful things for poetry. It's actually her words that are on the poster, and she is one of the poets that I read at the beginning of our, in some ways she gave me the idea when I saw that she had dedicated that poem to Emily Dickinson, who I love truly. And I thought the two of them together, that's powerful. So I want to thank them. I also want to thank Wes McNair, former Poet Laureate of Maine, teacher, educator, amazing poet, essayist, friend, kind human being, and just marvelous poet. We were so lucky to have access to two of his beautiful poems that will be published next year. Just so grateful. I'd like to thank Professor Patrick K. Ford, who in many ways inspired us in our last session in translation. He has inspired me now for decades. And finally, my friends, of course, I want to thank all of you, especially you, most of all you. I want to thank everyone who has been sending me poems. Again, even if you sent one poem this month, you have met the challenge and the invitation. Let's be poets in April. Every single one of you who have been participating, thank you. Now, there are also those of you who have been watching and cheering us on. Thank you. Thank you. So let's draw some prizes. How about that? First, I have two bowls here. I just want to show them to you. You know, the hardest thing about this whole this whole time was actually making all these little strips of paper. I would so much rather read your poems. This little bowl is for our young poets. And we were lucky. There were 33 poets who took part in our celebration. And I think about 6 of them were young, what I would consider young poets. So here's our drawing. We have one journal for a young poet, and that is Sarah White. Sarah, this one's for you, and I'll get in touch with you. So that's so wonderful. Thank you, young poets. Never stop. Your poems are like lightning strikes. So gorgeous. All right, so Sarah, now here's our adult poets. Whoops, I promise. And again, if you wrote 4 weeks, you're in here 4 times. If you wrote once, you're in here once, but everybody gets a chance. And we have 2 journals for adults. Our first winner is Sharon Bernard. Wonderful book goddess, librarian. I'm so glad. I want all of you to win. I hope you know that. Okay, and our second winner is Betsy Mandrioli. Well, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. So thank you so much, Jumping Fox, for those prizes. I'll get in touch and send you along those people. So my friends, we have come to the end of our celebration, and thank you for all of your participation. If you'd like to stay in touch, I'm going to put in the comment section or in the little description box a link to a way that you can join my mailing list. I send one really kind of charming message every month, just one a month, and they're often full of fairy godmothery gifts, and they're lovely and not obtrusive, and it's easy to get off. But if you just want to stay in touch, I hope you'll join my little community. It would be lovely to have you. Again, as always, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do, because there's lots more coming. And I appreciate so much when you like it. Honestly, that is like jet fuel to me. It's just very encouraging and keeps my spirits up. And so thank you for that. I do want to say there will be a prize for everyone who took part. I'll be sending you a special prize through the email to everybody. So even though we've got our 3 winners, you are truly all winners. You know, I wrote once in a poem that the reward for courage is courage, and the reward for writing poems is being a poet. You have been a poet this April. I am proud of you. I am proud of all of us, and I am grateful to all of you. So thank you with all my heart. I wish you a wonderful year of poetry, creativity, and inspiration. Thank you.